We are back. I believe we're live here. Waiting to see some viewers pop in here, and we'll know for sure that the stream has started. But yep, here we are. We're live. So Celtics are not quite on the clock. Again, it's our draft show.
They're on the Twitter clock.
They're on the Twitter clock. 13. Was it traded yet? Was it selected and traded? What happened?
No, not yet.
So 13.
Let me jump in on Pelicans here because this is a prime opportunity for the Celtics to do the Hayward thing. I've been targeting the Pelicans a while as a potential partner there. Pelicans have a ton of future picks. Celtics have some picks here. I think they can make something work here. Not in the next 3 minutes. Maybe the Pelicans take someone that Boston likes here. Maybe Boston starts to work over the next day with New Orleans here on something. I think this is a great opportunity for both teams here.
Yeah, I think the Hayward thing.
They move up one?
The Hayward thing is live.
Remember, how much would you have loved to move up one spot last year?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if there's a guy that they feel the same way about Tyler Hero, then sure, go for it. But I mean, have we heard that? There were rumblings that they wanted Hero.
This is very interesting here with what happens here. So I'm very interested to see with this trade. We got a lot of people already in the stream here.
We wanted Vessel. Right? And then we wanted Halliburton.
Yep. So they go 11, 12, 13.
So, I mean, you have to think that if Ainge really liked those guys, maybe he would have been able to put something together. Unless, I imagine the Spurs probably know Vessel is going to be like a 10-year.
Yeah, so what's interesting here is what we saw early in this draft where a ton of non-shooters go. LaMelo Ball, Anthony Edwards, Danny Avdia, those type of guys. 3 of the best 4 shooters in the draft are still on the board here. One of them will go to New Orleans or whoever ends up picking there. You still have the chance the Thunder move up for Pokasevsky, the Greek prospect that we've talked about here. They've wanted him badly. So you could be talking about Oklahoma City putting together their 17 picks here to move up to 13.
New Orleans, Keira Lewis.
All right.
Keira Lewis, that puts the Celtics on the clock here.
So here we go. Aaron Nesmith, Tyrell Terry, RJ Hampton. Those guys are available here.
We'll ask the people at home here. Assuming no trade here, who do you guys want?
Mm-hmm.
Guys,
I'm sticking with RJ Hampton.
We got Precious.
Precious is intriguing. No doubt about it. Yeah. If you don't believe in Robert Williams, there's a real sense that this guy's locked in. He has a similar physique to Williams, plays a similar game. If you feel better about developing him, about him being that center of the future, I think you do it here.
I think Precious is possible, and I think that's the reason why is some sort of size, athleticism, guys who can contest shots. I know people like RJ Hampton.
I want a shooter.
Well, let's remember.
I know a lot of people want shooters.
Another big who can't hit free throws and all he can do is rebound and he can't dribble and he's a liability. He can't hit outside shots. Are we going to do that? That's what we're going to do? He comes up. He doesn't play a minute next year. That's what we're going to do?
He'll be ready to roll immediately. This is not a guy who's going to need some time to step in.
Sadiq Bey is another guy people have liked a lot.
Not many. Bob, you mentioned how there's a lot of shooters left.
Sadiq Bey, you're right. Yeah, that's a good one. Josue loves him.
The first 8 picks, you didn't see many at all shooters going off the board.
I know that seems to be what everybody really wants is a shooter. Let me ask you this. Everybody, Celtics Twitter was freaking out when I think we got Josue here. Celtics Twitter was freaking out when Halliburton was sliding and everybody wanted to make a play there. Does Halliburton feel like this year's hero where we're going to be saying, you're going to hear the post-draft stories.
I hope not.
That's the guy Danny wanted. He tried.
Well, he's going to the Kings. He's going to the Kings.
Danny's already sending out those texts.
That's the guy.
We tried. We tried everything we could to move up.
That's the guy they wanted.
Josue, let's talk about Josue. Sadiq Bey's there. That's your guy.
Yo, I'm a huge fan of this guy. He can guard multiple positions. He's a shooter. I don't know. I feel like he's the kind of guy his ceiling could be. He could reach his potential quicker than he would in other situations, especially in this team that needs secondary help from that wing position so badly on both ends, right? So I think he checks all the boxes.
Yeah, it didn't work out for Boston, but a 44% three-point shooter, has size to guard all the perimeter positions, which is what you look for there.
They needed that.
And, if Hayward's leaving, all of a sudden you're talking about possibly a starter there on the wing, or at least a 6-man if Smart's sliding into the starting lineup. So he fits a mold for sure for them. He's older.
He's the best option for the wing position right now.
Yeah, he's 22. He's more developed. There's definitely shades of guys that have played for the Celtics before on those wings positions for Brad Stevens. But the shooting's the key, Josue. Like, this is a guy who can come in and knock shots down for them.
And I think that's going to translate on the NBA level. I don't think that part I'm not really concerned about. I'm just worried. I guess my only concern would be on the offensive end, if he could be a consistent scorer enough that the Celtics can rely on.
Or a creator. Yeah. A creator is an interesting one because, he'll do a lot of the things that Hayward does, but not that creation aspect.
Right. But defensively, I mean, I love that about him. That's what I think. Because of that, you take the offense, you take the shooting and everything else, and you're like, okay, well, what box doesn't he check? If you compare him to every other shooter or every other wing player that's still available, I just think he has more upside, or he has the edge over those guys.
Well, if we dive into my mock draft, I had this guy going 11, so he is slid for certain. Saddiq Bey,
Aaron Naismith, according to Woj.
All right, the shooter.
They got the shooter.
Whack.
Bobby, do your thing.
All right, Aaron Naismith. He is 6'6" with a 6'10" wingspan, wing player, going to play a similar position to what we just mentioned with Saddiq Bey. Listen to this number, 116 threes last year. He shoots 52%. This is the best shooter in the NBA draft this year.
Okay.
That's what people wanted.
I'm sold.
So he was one of the 3 or 4 shooters that a lot of people were targeting in this spot that people wanted to see them get. So here you go. That's what you got right now.
One-dimensional, though. He's not going to create. He's not going to get to the rim. He's not going to get into the lane. But this is what we talk about. This is what Bob Ryan on our network obsesses about. When's the last time that the Celtics had a pure shooter who can knock down shots on the wing, be an explosive scorer off the bench, which is certainly what the Celtics were missing last year. Now, here's another concern with this guy. The SEC stinks. No competition in there last year. It was one of their worst seasons ever. So was his scoring a little inflated there against weaker competition? That's what teams worry about with Anthony Edwards as well, who played there. College basketball in general kind of stunk last year, but a shot's a shot.
Shot to shoot your shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate the pick. Obviously, I like Bey a little more because I think he's just more of you get more on the defensive end. But yeah, I mean, if you're talking about pure shooting, I mean, he's the best guy right now. And I don't necessarily know if the Celtics expected him to still be available at this point. I think that's sort of the silver lining here throughout this night, right? Throughout the draft. I think a lot of the guys that the Celtics had anticipated to be long gone were still available. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were really going through a couple of options or maybe a few options before they actually landed on,
This is
where
Sean
Von Hastings combo.
No, this is where I think we get confused between what like a bunch of
yeah, well, that's what happened when
a bunch of stat nerds put in their mock drafts versus what actual talent evaluators at the NBA level think. If a guy goes somewhere, chances are that's where he was supposed to go. I mean, with some exceptions, but there's no way 13 teams were all like, whoa, they all made dumb picks, and this is the guy they should have taken. And how did he get to us at 14? Sometimes you get lucky with fits, but ultimately this is roughly where a player like this should go, within the range of 4 or 5 picks in either direction. So
yeah, don't get me wrong. Those are there. They didn't. Yeah, okay. Well, they didn't steal anything, but for this unique draft, where a lot of guys, there's a lot of up and down guys sliding, there wasn't much of a sample size. Compared to other years. But I mean, a pure shooter, Bobby called him the best shooter in the draft. I mean, did you really think the Celtics would grab someone like that at number 14? I didn't think so.
I didn't think so, because they're a team that favors that versatility, being able to do multiple things on the wing. This guy is pretty one-dimensional, as I say. Like, he's a scorer, he's a shooter, put the ball in his hands and let it fly.
Right, but to John's point, though, he's not surprised that this is who they got. I got you. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. I mean, John, so do you like this pick? You said you were going to come out with rage, fury against what was happening here, not moving up.
Well, you wanted to see action. And you don't really know if ultimately the guy that they wanted was somewhere gettable, somewhere else. Then you want to see them make that move. If they're fine, this is where I always use the Patriots as a good comp when it comes to drafting. A lot of times that everyone gets mad at the Patriots when they trade out of a round, but basically they're looking at the board and they're like, I'm getting the same guy here that I'm getting 10, 15 picks later. If the Celtics thought they're getting the same guy at 14 that they're getting at 8, 9, 10, you don't care if they move up. Where you wanted to see was them go aggressively somewhere because they wanted a guy. We'll hear the stories afterwards of whether or not they tried really aggressively to get up for Halliburton, but they couldn't, and X, Y, and Z. And then you're going to be like, because that's what Romeo ended up being. Romeo was a shit. I got to take this pick. I really wanted this guy. It's that teardrop. Right. You have your guys, and then everything below it is kind of like all right, I'll take it. So we don't know how they feel about this guy.
There was a lot of guys like that too. Remember the guy from Villanova? There was I'm drawing a blank right now. I'm thinking Denzel Valentine, but it was a similar guy like that. Those sort of like middle of and that's the thing about the Celtics. So Brad Stevens loves those guys. They can defend multiple positions, and they're athletic.
As you said,
you don't know how they're going to translate. What's up?
This is a one-dimensional guy, Bobby. What do you think of him as a defender?
He's got tools. 6'10" wingspan's legit for a guy at 6'6". It's not his strong suit. For sure. He's not going to go out there and be Marcus Smart or anything like that, or any of the other wing players that they have. We're talking about one of those guys. And, I don't know. You guys have been covering the team longer than me. Who's the last guy that they had who came in and just focused on scoring? Like Isaiah Thomas off the bench in 2015, I'd say. Now, this guy's not 5'10", which is the biggest difference there. But this is a guy who's going to come in and focus on scoring, that one thing that they needed last year. Yeah, there's an Eddie House.
Person that crossed my mind.
Yeah, there's an Eddie House style player.
Don't Jason Terry wasn't.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna criticize guys coming out of college. I'm not gonna criticize their defense, because that's something that you can teach defense. That a lot of defense is coaching and effort.
Yeah, but look at Tatum.
Yeah, absolutely. So you give me a guy who already has a nice jump shot, a great 3-point, great 3-point range, can stretch the floor, all those things. That's your kind of like your Tyler Hero, right? I mean, that was the Heat's spark plug scorer off the bench. It wasn't. No one was talking about, they needed a guy that can play defense right out of college. No, that's something that you learn over time. So give me a guy like Nesmith, like they just drafted here, that can hopefully come in and provide you 10, 12, 15 minutes off the bench, can spot up, shoot. I mean, Kevin O'Connor, I was just checking out a couple things he wrote. I mean, he compared him, player comps. He said,
I love player comps.
Danny Green or a taller Buddy Hield.
He's tall. I mean, this guy has
totally take that.
This guy has tools, which is great. Like, he's not 6 feet, 6'2" shooter coming in at the guard spot. He's a legit wing. Like John said, you're not worried about defensive liability here. He could develop into a better one in Boston's system, which plenty of players have, especially with those kind of tools. So there's a lot to love here. Like, this is going to be what it's going to be. I don't think this guy transforms into a Tyler Hero type player, and all of a sudden you're talking about, whoa, they found something here. I think if you were looking for like a guy with higher upside into the future, you're going with an RJ Hampton there. So this is a guy who's going to fill a role, be what he's going to be, and have a spot on a contending team right now.
Good. That's what they need.
That brings us back to our conversation about the state of the team. John, this is not take 2 steps back and figure things out. This is let's do this now.
Well, it is, because this is an actual need. And the thing with this guy, again, is you're looking, you mentioned the upside. You could have taken an upside pick and gone with somebody different, but they didn't. They went here, and this is in addition to so Danny does this sometimes. It's kind of like that proven college player. Grant Williams was one last year where you might have had some higher upside guys theoretically. This is a guy who scored 23 points a game in college, and he's 21 years old. So it's less of a, let's see what he can do in 2 years if he remembers to set his alarm clock and make it to practice on time sort of player. It's a guy who may, who may make it into, right now into your rotation and actually provide some minutes and fills a current need. So yeah, it is more of a in the now sort of pick. It's a need they had. You had a ton of people clamoring for shooters.
Want to hear?
Everyone needs shooters, though.
Want to hear the Jeff Goodman take on this one?
Yeah,
tremendous pick. Brad Stevens should be thanking Danny Ainge every single day for this one.
Goodman loves everybody because he's so close to them. He loves them all.
But you know what? If you get on Goodman's bad side, if you get on Goodman's bad side, he's not afraid to rip you.
Yeah, I'm interested. Funny you say that because I was convinced that one of those games, instead of the Tyler Hero game, was going to be Duncan Robinson because this dude loves Duncan Robinson. Yes. I was just like, oh man, Goodman's gonna he's gonna lose it over this. But he's always been a big Hero guy too, so I don't know.
Goodman loves, like I said, these are all of his children. He loves all of these guys.
They're all graduating.
It's like all of my sons graduated, and they're here.
Austin's gonna love you there. It's like, another one over here.
Because he does. He scouts these guys. He talks to the kids. He knows them. But I mean, that's good. I mean, any other Twitter reaction to this pick right now?
A lot of people seem to be happy with it. I mean, everyone says, good. They got a shooter. They got a scorer. They need that. So I think first impression is, a good pick. But yeah.
Minnesota completes that trade that we mentioned earlier. They're going to move up to 17. Or am I flipping that wrong? Yeah, the Rubio 25 and 28 trade. Oklahoma City is moving up to 17, I believe, is actually how it's going. So Minnesota is moving back here and getting back Ricky Rubio.
Some fun facts from Aaron Nesmith here. He can drive a tractor, and he has built multiple chicken coops and dug multiple ponds in his day.
Also played for Jerry Stackhouse.
These are just the fun facts, and he cuts trees. He's country strong.
Okay.
He played for Jerry Stackhouse too, if you guys remember him.
Gets, man.
So he's got character, is what you're saying.
Here's the comp everyone's going to want to hear from this guy. Ready? Here's who you want this guy to be: Chris Middleton. And I think they've worked. I feel like they've crossed paths at some. I feel like I read that somewhere along the way.
Yeah, I see the size similarities there. Also, I mean, Vandy, that's a great school. I mean, this guy's probably got good head on his shoulders.
Smart guy.
Smart player.
Yeah.
Probably a high character guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. All the things that Danny Ainge, loves in his draft picks. I mean, maybe shades of Jaylen Brown in there somewhere. Who knows, right?
So now the key here is
not in the shooting aspect. But
so look,
personality.
Let me talk about one thing before we move on. One thing I thought was interesting. Well, first off, you got to see here whether or not they're able to. Again, they cannot make these picks. So they have to do something here. So you got to see whether or not they're able to package 26 and 30 and move forward, or there's a greater deal at play here. And again, we don't know anything. I've heard no buzz here yet.
No buzz. This has been the most boring draft in a long time.
On anything. So we don't really know yet. I will say is
he can't make the picks, but he might have to.
Yeah, he might have. Well, what did I say at the beginning of the night?
You said that they were gonna have to make all the.
Gordon stays and we make all three picks exactly where we thought they were gonna make them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you did that.
I did say exactly.
But that seems to be the NBA as a whole, right? No one's moving much. I mean, it's.
I'm still looking at Philadelphia at 21 to possibly move up there. Get a big man in Isaiah Stewart, which is the guy I had taking second in my mock draft. So I still think there's a potential to consolidate those 26 and 30.
Here's the one I wanted to talk about.
Isaiah Stewart just went actually.
Right here, the Hawks. Okay, taking a big man to go along with John Collins and Clint Capella.
They're just going to stomp. They're just going to stomp on every NBA team.
That doesn't seem like it makes sense to me. Does it make sense to you guys? This is the thing that raised a little alarm bells here. And again, I don't know how much of the Hawks Hayward thing is in play, but this to me smelled funny. And again, I don't know. You've heard Capella to Celtics before in some capacity. Collins has been talked about. Cedric Maxwell went on the Garden Report earlier today, said he heard Atlanta was talking about things. But Jared Weiss also bumped one of his from The Athletic, bumped a piece that he wrote today out on Twitter about what the Celtics could theoretically do to try to get Collins from Atlanta, and they could also move some money around and get them under the cap here. It doesn't seem like it would make sense because Collins is such a dynamic, player under 25 with seemingly, limitless upside. But again, what are they doing with 3 guys, 3 guys, 6'10", 6'11", playing the same position here?
No, I'm with you, John, and that's exactly what I was thinking about when you brought it up in the group text before we got on camera. But I just think the Atlanta Hawks are not in a position where they have to trade one of these guys right away, and I think that doesn't work in the Celtics' favor.
Don't. But they got to decide if they're going to pay Collins long term. It's the clock is ticking on whether you're going to max him. That's all.
Right. And you have to figure this out because obviously you can't keep all of these guys. I just think the whole Capella thing is sort of one of those moves that they're going to make when like no one's looking and they're just going to get it done just because they have to get it done. I just seem like it doesn't seem like there's an agenda to trade him right away. They're sort of just feeling things out. But then to your point again, they have to make a decision here with Collins, and they have to trade one of these guys. And if I'm Danny Ainge, I'm going to monitor the situation, but. With the Gordon Hayward, the clock's ticking here. I don't know if Gordon Hayward's going to be involved in something like this if the Celtics in Atlanta ultimately end up making a deal.
Yeah, I don't think it's a huge deal. We've seen teams do this, take multiple guys. If Minnesota was crafty, they possibly should have taken James Wiseman #1 today if they believed he was the best player. Teams take multiple guys at the same position. This kind of reminds me of when people say the Celtics have too many wings. You can play 2 centers. There's nothing wrong with that. You can rotate them in and out.
Too much starting pitching.
You can play them together. The John Collins
2 kind of centers though. That's the thing. I don't know. They're stiff.
The John Collins one is interesting to me because he is a guy who rotates over to center. So are you talking about Collins as your backup center rotating over for small ball, or Okongwu stepping into this spot? He's younger. He's got a development curve here, so there's nothing wrong with having those 3 guys. But
there's not. But here's the thing: you can never have too many wings. Wings are like starting pitching. Okay,
yeah.
Like. The wings you play everywhere, and a wing is worth a lot more than a big man in today's NBA. And you can have
it depends.
You can have 3, 4, 5 of them and still find the minutes and play in those switchable lineups and the death lineups and all of that stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, you're not running more than 2 guys this size out on the court at any given time, and oftentimes only 1. So
that's exactly why I just see them trading one of these guys,
especially not built for that. It just isn't. It doesn't go that way.
Well, when you're thinking about you think about the reports that we heard beforehand, right? The Gallinari and that they're going to go out and get these guys. If that doesn't work out, they're going to have to look for secondary options. So I can see the Atlanta Hawks just dangling one of these big men to whichever team they see fit or whichever situation that works to their best advantage. And whether it's someone that they're acquiring that's making $17 million and need to match salaries, boom, you have Capella. Or whether it's someone else that's on the lower scale or a team looking for a prospect that just got drafted. They have a little bit of everything to play with here. So I wouldn't be shocked that that's the next step, depending again on how they do in the first couple of days of free agency. If they're able to reel in one of these guys that they've been targeting.
I'd love to hear something. I'm waiting for that next domino to fall where we hear like, there's talk of movement here, or this guy was drafted to go over here. We don't know that yet. Right now, we're just assuming all of these players have been selected to play for their team, and there's no movement here. And this is strange because all the talk of the draft is how many teams were looking to move up, to move back. That's all anybody talked about. It is very strange that nothing, except for that one trade we just talked about, nothing has really materialized yet.
No huge surprises either in that top 10. Denny Avdija
fell. What's his name?
Right when you got to no, he wasn't a huge surprise. I saw him going top 5 in quite a few. No, he had been soaring in the mock drafts and talks around this draft for the last couple of weeks. I was surprised by Jalen Smith, who many saw as a later first-round pick.
That was the one.
Phoenix.
That was another one. Would that go 10?
Yeah, to Phoenix. Is Aaron Baines out in Phoenix? I'd be asking that question too among these center conversations.
Everybody wants some Baines.
Yeah, I mean, I would figure that would be the case. Are you going to sign Baines, pay him after you draft a talented young center like they did here, and reach for him? Frankly, like they feel better about him than most did. It seemed like.
Yeah. So I'm going to check the chat a little bit here too. But what do you guys think here, Bobby? If they're again, it's early. Where are we right now?
Weird Celtics Twitter is already like in love.
No, I can't even keep up. It's too fast.
They're already like putting him in like farmer's gear
because of the tractor shit. I told you.
Because of what you just said.
Everybody loves that already.
All right, there goes the Greek.
Man.
He's not really Greek.
He's not really Greek, but he plays for Olympiacos.
But yeah, I said the Thunder.
And that's the correct pronunciation. In Greece, it's Red Sox Yankees is Olympiacos Panathinaikos. You're one of those two. Okay, you pick it.
Yeah. I used to have it. Yeah.
So the Thunder,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, it's so true.
The Thunder had been red hot on his trail, so they moved up.
Jimmy, you gotta have a straw hat or something back there. You got the hard
hat. I got nothing. I got the hard hat. I don't got my straw hat on me right now.
Yeah.
I usually do.
Yeah.
Seth Davis, big college hoops guy. Yeah. Aaron Nesmith is the best player.
You know who played for Panathinaikos?
Jesus.
Dominique Wilkins.
Okay, good.
He did.
After the Celtics.
Best player in this draft when it comes to the most important skill in basketball. So solid pick. So I mean, a lot of people are high on that. It's honestly it's a little bit of a breath of fresh air for the Celtics to take a guy that's just like a straight up scorer, not just Danny Ainge falls in love with like athleticism sometimes, and then the guy ends up not being able to shoot or whatever the reason is. But to take a guy that can just straight up score, maybe come off the bench and give you a little spark and provide you with that little boost.
Yeah,
I mean that is one of the things they did need this year. I mean, what does that mean? Bobby. I mean, does he have any? Because he's not a playmaker, at least not at this point. So he probably doesn't replace much of what Gordon Hayward gives you in that aspect. But I mean, he can provide some scoring that you may or may not lose if Hayward hits the road.
Yeah,
keep going.
I was gonna say there's still potential to pair that with something you talk about, a playmaker, a wing defender. Those sorts of things are still at play here. And my guy, the guy I love, RJ Hampton's still on the board. Could they get up to 21 and pick him?
You do love him.
You do love him.
Yeah,
really
I mean,
you do love him.
He's sliding still.
Did we take a guy named RJ Hunter?
Was that his name? RJ Hunter? Yeah, that one. I was thinking about that earlier. That one didn't work out too well.
Wait, so real quick, I want to get to a couple questions.
No, he was a rebounder. He was a big rebounder.
Greedy plays D.
Rebounds.
We mentioned that before. We don't think he's untouchable, but at this point, you got to roll him up into something rather than something else. Another quick question here. Guys are asking all of us here. Bruce Miller, would you have rolled up all three picks for the Israeli player or Halliburton for that matter?
We got to trade.
Bobby? Would you have done it
for Halliburton? I'm not in love with him. Like there weren't people in that top 14 that I fell in love with and that I needed to see come here and that I need to yield assets for. You got a pretty good player at 14. There's still a potential to draft a pretty good player here in the 20s. And of course, I'm targeting that RJ Hampton. I've been talking all along.
Nikhil Harry's here. He's usually in our Pats chats, but he's here. Hey, Nikhil.
Oh, that's bad karma, huh? On draft night.
No, Nikhil gets beat up on the Pats boards all the time.
Clippers trading Landry Shamet to the Nets for number 19.
So
nothing.
Yeah. So you would not have traded up for any of those, Bobby? We're trying to take some questions here, guys.
No, I've been more focused on moving up later with those late round picks and packing that into one. I like the idea of double dipping here in that middle round. There's usually a good player in that middle round, and if you can double dip there, there's a better shot that you have one of the great players in the middle portions of this draft.
Yeah, this feels like last year, right? Where you move to a place where you get a guy you want and you go into the second round and get the guy you might have gotten at 30. This is your Carson Edwards, Grant Williams kind of double switcheroo here. I could see that possible. But we'll see. I always want to see people move up. Moving up means I really want that.
So guy. there is one interesting guy that they missed out on by a pick, and we talked about that. They were in a location where someone was going to go at 13 that makes you think, oh, they just missed that guy. Keira Lewis is a phenomenal point guard. And we talked about the future of the point guard position after Kemba. Yeah. That was a guy that they had their eyes on, that is one of the better talents in this draft, one of the best athletes in this draft, and a phenomenal point guard. They probably wish he was there at 14, and the Pelicans were fielding calls for that pick. What do you give up to flip one spot up? I mean, we're talking about a guy who would have been more consequential of the future of the franchise rather than just a good role guy in Nesmith.
Here's another question for you, Bobby. Some backup point guard options remaining here. Anybody?
It's slim. I think that's one of the weaker positions in this draft in terms of depth. Cole Anthony was a guy that I thought was going to be available in the 20s. He is gone now. The next guy you look to is Theo Maledon. who has been mentored by Tony Parker. He's a French guard, solid all around, can shoot from everywhere on the court, playmaker, 6'4", defends. Nothing remarkable, just solid all around. Would be a good backup point guard, and comes from a pretty successful line of good point guards out of Spain. The latest being Killian Hayes that got drafted earlier tonight. So he would be rock solid. He's a guy I look to if he's available there at 26. Kevin O'Connor had him in the second round, so I think there's a good chance he would be there.
Yeah. Somebody's there's fake
Nets
news.
made a trade.
Huh?
Nets made a trade. You guys see that on Twitter?
Was it for Harden?
So who's picking there now? Who's picking there now, Jimmy?
It's a 3-way deal. The Pistons are getting the 19th pick.
There's a deal. There's a deal to be made here for the South. Like this, I can't, John. Oh man, you bring up an intriguing possibility, John, where they use all 3 of these first round picks, and it's like, what are we talking about at that point? 9 out of the 15 players on the roster being rookies, second year or third year players. Like, whoo! And then Hayward walks out the door.
It's not because you want to; it's just because you're stuck. Like if nobody wants anything that you're peddling, what do you do? The only thing possible is you flip them into the future, like conditional. It can turn into a second, can turn into a first. That's the best you're going to do with those picks, right?
Yeah.
That's about it. Nobody's trading you for a future first from that low in the draft.
Just nobody,
unless somebody really wants to get in on something,
what's gonna. Oh, go ahead, Jimmy.
No, I was gonna say picks like that. They usually just get included in a bigger deal, and you end up with that pick later on. Like you're not flipping a first at this point for a first in a future year, unless it's heavily protected. Which, that obviously it would be heavily protected. But like you said, John, I mean, like Danny just has to get out of the pick just in order to just not have the roster.
Joseph Peralt here asking, what value do these picks really have? The answer, Joseph?
Bagged balls.
0.
That's why they're taking it. That's why they're going to use every single one of them. I can't believe. I know. John said that he was serious, but I didn't. I really didn't.
Now get ready.
I was serious.
Get ready.
Not because he wants it, just because of the inability
to
find somebody who wants it.
I thought he would find somebody at least to trade off one of these picks.
Get ready for this.
How many people have them? Bobby, what do you got?
Get ready for this possibility, which is going to drive people through the roof. What if they draft and stash a player in the late first round here?
I'm not surprised. I was joking about Yabusele. Yeah. Yabusele, Zizic, they do this.
Draft and stash looms.
Yeah. At number 30. For sure.
Australia. You guys remember that guy?
Yeah. So there's a prime. There's a prime
Semi.
point guard in this draft.
He was the second rounder, but they stashed him too.
He's the first.
He's a Turk.
There is a guy in the late first round here, Leandro Bolmero, 6'7" point guard who plays for Barcelona. Figures to stay there for a year or two, maybe longer. Needs to develop a shot. He pretty much has everything else in his game. So there's your draft and stash guy, if that's what they're going to go with.
There's reaction to draft.
And there's the reaction to draft and stash. That'll be the popular reaction.
That's mine too. Yeah. But honestly,
look at this picture.
Honestly, when you're
Dash.
Oh, you're so right, John. Like you knew they were going to end up here.
When you're a team like the Celtics,
I've been here before. Anyway.
But you're drafting late because
what's going on, Alaska?
Theoretically went far in the playoffs. Like you have a solid team. Like you shouldn't really have the roster spots for all these rookies to begin with. So like a draft and stash kind of makes sense for a quote unquote good team at this stage in the game. Now, I mean, obviously it's not ideal, but it's just what I think it's what happens with some of these good teams that, like they'll maybe need a guy like that down the road, take a flyer on them, but when you get to this point in the draft, like you said, I mean, you're just trying to move out of it or move up, and clearly they weren't thinking about moving up, or if they tried to, they couldn't. So
it's important to note here as we get closer and closer to that 26, and there's a possibility that the Celtics could still move up here and package those picks together.
Hampton's still on the board, Bob?
Hampton is still on the board. Sadiq Bey is on the board. Tyrell Terry, who's another phenomenal shooter.
There goes Bey. Bey just got
there goes Bey. Bey just left. Detroit. It's a good pickup.
What pick?
19.
19. All right, so we're pushing 20 now. 6 more picks to go until the Celtics get here. There's still quite a few talented guys. Kentucky guy and Tyrese Maxey. The other best shooter in the draft, and Tyrell Terry. Do you double dip on shooters? Put two great shooters together.
Get them.
So
Just
there are
boom,
options
boom,
here.
boom.
Yes.
So there was so much emphasis, and I said this
right on John's cue.
I said this to you guys earlier. There was so much emphasis on move up, move up, move up. But you trade smart, trade this guy, get up to the top. This wasn't that kind of draft. This is a draft where you sit back, wait and see who's there, and if they follow you and you like them.
Now it is. Oh,
I said that earlier.
It can be
now
both.
it is.
It can be.
Didn't I say, all right, John, Joe Sway, did I say that earlier?
No, that's fine. I don't disagree with that, Bobby. I think that actually, it makes more sense in a draft where you don't actually have consensus top tier players to play three lottery tickets and see if one of them hits. Celtics just weren't in a position to do that because they couldn't hold three players on their roster. That's their problem. So it's a practical problem. It makes way more sense. You're right. With here, where theoretically the guy picked at 22 could be the fifth best player in the draft. You have no idea here. It's a total crapshoot. So I agree with that. It's just maybe last year they shouldn't have taken three guys. Maybe last year you trade all 3 picks and go up and get a hero, and you don't have to worry about it. And
definitely.
It's a sunk cost at this point.
It just is what it is. So you're right. You might be better off taking them, but then you got to figure something out.
If you go back in the time machine last year and all things are equal and no one knows where Milwaukee, well, everyone knew where Milwaukee was going to be, but Memphis, the Celtics pick, your own picks that year, you would have traded 6 first-round picks for Tyler Hero. You would have done it, but they had higher hopes for that Memphis pick and they were wrong. They deserve to get killed for that because Memphis wins that lottery. They move up in that draft. They could see on draft night that John Morant was going to Memphis, and people had an idea of what that kind of player was going to be for the Grizzlies. Now, did they know that it was going to turn them into a playoff team? Probably not. But right when Memphis wins that lottery, you say, and maybe start second guessing what that pick was going to be.
Yeah. Asking if Giannis has another brother. He's got a lot of brothers, but
one with the Lakers, one with the Bucks.
I don't know that anybody's left.
So looking at Nesmith, I guess just looking at some stuff, he had a pretty bad foot injury, I guess, this season. So
was it like a tractor ran over his foot or something?
I don't know what it was, but the last thing you want is another lingering foot injury on this team. So hopefully that's not anything to worry about.
Yeah, so on January 11th, it was initially announced Nesmith would miss the entire season with a right foot injury he suffered against Auburn. And he missed the rest of the season from there. So you're right, Jimmy.
That's roughly around the time that Romeo got hurt last year. It's like we're like a magnets for these.
That piqued Danny's antenna went up when he heard what? Injury?
Yeah.
He's going to drop in the draft?
What? We can buy low on an injured guy?
That's a fair point. The surgery was in January, which was a year ago at this point, essentially. So there's been time to recover from that, but you don't love to see that out of a guy.
No.
Yeah, more or less. 10 months.
What is time anymore? What month is it?
Do we think Nesmith has is it Naismith or Nesmith? We're calling it.
Oh, good question.
Just call him Smitty.
The guy friggin' created basketball.
You can't call him Naismith. All right.
Second best name in the draft.
I was gonna say that earlier. That's quite a name for a basketball player.
Great name for a basketball player.
He had no choice. He had to be a baller.
Halliburton was just funny.
Oh man, he's an awesome player, and going to the Kings is not.
Can this guy have Tyler Hero potential? Just way.
This guy have Tyler Hero potential?
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I think Tyler Hero I don't want to pigeonhole him as just a pure shooter. He can score from all over the floor. I don't know if this guy necessarily fits that mold. He's more of a straight 3-point shooter as opposed to Hero, who could really spread the floor and shoot from anywhere, as we saw.
Dude,
Bobby, what do you think?
No, he's not a creative, crafty player on the dribble. That's the biggest difference there for sure.
That's not a bad thing. I mean, this Celtics offense, we literally were talking about this before the draft started. The Brad Stevens offense has just been begging for a knockdown shooter. Maybe this is their guy that they can stick to long term.
Yeah,
I agree.
What if he's Channing Frye? Is that good enough?
Sure.
Is he Channing Frye? I hope he's not.
Yes.
All right,
I'm curious. A guy who just shoots.
Sure. Yeah.
I can confirm it's Naismith.
Naismith.
Yep.
Well, we'll call him Aaron.
Would that be fine?
Well, what if he's Danny Green, like KOC says? That'd be awesome. That'd be freaking sweet. Because I mean, that's a outside shooter.
What did KOC compare him to?
If you keep Hayward down.
Danny Green.
Danny Green, Buddy Hield, I mean, those guys.
I like the green one.
You have to respect their shots. You know, you have to play up in them. You can't cheat off of those guys.
I like the Green comparison more than Buddy Hield, though. I don't know if he's going to be capable of dropping 40
the Green comparison.
any given night. You know, that's Buddy. Again, he's more strictly more of a three-point shooter as opposed to someone that can, score off the dribble.
That number's staggering, though. That's what I started off the night right after they picked him reading. 52% on 100 threes. We're talking 50 out of 100 threes made.
I'd like to see the defense in some of these games in that competition. Like you said, Bobby, I mean, he's playing in a pretty shitty conference. So I obviously expect those numbers to
he's
significantly drop.
Sorry to disappoint you defensively, but hopefully those 3-point shots will make you not, worried about him on defense.
But he's got NBA range already. I mean, he's the type of guy that won't be shy to pull up from, 26, 28, right?
Yeah, those are the guys. Oh man, the Celtics need people like that so bad. Like, can you please spread the floor?
I can't wait to see
spread the floor, Bobby. I hope you can spread the floor for the Celtics team because who else is doing it? No one else.
This is a pleasant surprise. This is a pleasant surprise, Josue. You think about what the Celtics value in the draft, what the league values in the draft now. These versatile guys who do a little bit of everything. They may not be able to shoot, but maybe they can grow into it. Like just the raw athletic talents that usually go in the lottery. This guy has perfected his art and is ready to do it from day one. And the Celtics, like you said, haven't had that in so long. It's a breath of fresh air. It almost reminds me of bringing in Enes Kanter last year. Is it exactly what the league's going toward? No, but this guy does what he does great. He's going to fit that role. He's not going to complain about not starting. He's just going to do what he's going to do. And that's refreshing.
Keep going. That's funny. Keep going. What you saying?
It's true. It's true. It is true.
Yeah,
let's move on to that.
I couldn't help it.
Let's move on to that Raptors pick coming up.
You pasted that thing on. It's not alive.
I know. I was staring at it the whole time. I'm like, I'm gonna wait for the perfect moment when Bobby's talking. It's the ultimate diss. Bobby, you're a Raptors fan.
Number 20, Precious Achiuwa. So the Miami Heat.
Precious. Precious.
I'll tell you what. If you had told me this, if the Celtics had drafted Precious, no offense to him, but I'm very happy with the pick they took. I want the shooter. I don't want bigs. I don't want guys who just are gonna be the next Rob Williams. This is the guy we
wish Robert Williams was. I love this guy. I really do.
Oh, and the Heat get him behind Bam.
I like kind this guy a lot.
I thought you were gonna go there with Jimmy was channeling your old Kevin Garnett. Remember when the Celtics picked Fab Melo? Kevin was like, I'm not gonna call a man Fab, but I don't know.
I forgot about that.
Rest in peace, Fab Melo.
Fab. It's just not me.
I'm going back to Naismith here. Again, talking about exactly having the type of person this is a person who does not need to develop any aspect of their NBA game outside of getting used to defending, obviously at this level, but he does exactly what he does. Catch and shoot off the dribble, just shoots. And when you have other people who take the burden of creating shots and dribbling and who draw all of the attention, that's just what you need at times. Just give me the ball and shoot,
Yeah,
so now, and in a non-star draft, this keeps going back to it because these are developing opinions. We're trying to talk ourselves either into or out of things, right. Okay? I'm talking myself into it a little bit because if there's not really a star and there's not a player and at 14 you're picking at best, I mean, if you look at NBA drafts, everyone thinks you have unlimited potential because you see some guys Giannis go at 13, Donovan Mitchell at 13, and you're like, oh, I want one of those guys. But the reality of it is 0 to 5 are stars or starters. 5 to 10 are fringy starters or rotation players, and literally everything after that is a crapshoot. You're as likely to have a guy play meaningful minutes or be out of the league in 3 years as soon as you get past that. In that, even the 10 to 15 range, 15 to 20, forget about it. So these are fringy picks. If you get a guy who fills a role and can give you rotation minutes at that, it's usually a win. So it's not, you're hoping to hit an absolute home run with it because you've seen other teams do it. So there's that. Do I take the shot at the guy with the highest ceiling or take the guy who I know can do stuff and be a valuable type of player? Right. And that's kind of always where fans sometimes want the highest ceiling, but this is a need they had to have.
It's like when you brought up what Goodman said, right? Goodman loves everyone. What I wanted to say, or at least elaborate better, was the fact that he likes guys who are going to be successful in the NBA, but you don't know how long they're going to be successful, right? Like to your point, it could be a 4 or 5 year span and then they fall out of the league. But when you have someone who can give you something, the intangible, something that Celtics don't, again, whether it's 3-point shooting, whether it's knockdown, a guy who can just come off the bench and score for you. I think 1, it spreads the floor, for guys like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. I think 2, it gives the Celtics another option off the bench, something that I think that was just really came up short during the playoffs. You get the juicing up that bench. And 3, whether he falls out of the league, 3 or 4 years from now, I think the Celtics just have to have that sort of player in their offense just to see how everyone else reacts to it. How is everyone else's offense going to blossom? There's Jaylen Brown, which I think he will regardless, but, Jaylen Brown makes the first All-Star team because he's able to score more because there's someone there in the corner that everyone has to worry about and run out and try to block their shot. I just think the Celtics having that kind of player out there, whether he's scoring 16 points or he's averaging 7, if he's able to average anywhere between a 3.5 or 2 or is a constant threat, and Brad Stevens is giving him the green light, which I think he will, then that's just going to make the team ultimately better. And I think that in the position the Celtics are in right now, in this position, you just have to answer any void you have on your team, or at least the ones that you think can catapult you into becoming a better team. And I think that's what's going to do. You have a knockdown shooter, or at least someone who's a constant threat, that's going to make guys better. And I think someone like Jaylen Brown in particular, he's just so not done growing, in my opinion. And I think he makes that leap. I think he makes a significant leap this year for sure.
It's going to be an awesome blossom, I think, Josue.
I don't know about the NBA Finals hope. I don't know if that's what you mean by that tone, but
no. I'm not.
This is what we got,
sometimes again, you just have to accept it.
Yeah, but I mean, like you said,
fireworks. Yeah.
What's Aaron Baines' number? What's IT's number?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it also gives you a peek into, if there's a lot of people out there who still think the Celtics need size, and they would be correct, and I'm sure the Celtics understand that they need size. I wonder if them taking Naismith is sort of a peek into maybe what their offseason plans are about acquiring a big, whether it's through a trade or whether it's somebody that they're waiting to see if they're going to hit the free agent market.
Willie Cauley-Stein, Jimmy.
I wasn't going to say it, but I was going to say it. A guy like Willie Cauley-Stein, for example, who opted out of his deal today. So, I mean, I think there's a little peek into maybe what the Celtics thinking. And I'd like to see Naismith go in with, a little 1-2 punch with Marcus Smart off the bench. I think those two could complement each other pretty well.
One of the most important stats of the night right now, we have Woj tipping 11 picks. Shams coming in at 6, Haynes 2.
Haynes, he's getting there, but not quite.
Haynes had a couple. So Woj is making Shams work for it. I think one year Shams showed up and started to take some of that shit from Woj, and he was like, forget about it. Woj had a couple times. Woj literally double dipped. He double tipped a couple times. He had like the 5th pick, and then like 28 seconds later,
2 and 3 came out consecutively. Yeah.
He had them.
He's like, screw it. He's like, I know 10. He's like, I know 5 picks ahead. You want me to say them all? I'll say them all.
Woj went with, like, he created the tweet drafts already. He had them ready to go. He had them ready. Sometimes this comes down to who's got the quicker thumbs, So I think Woj went in there and just drafted his tweets ahead of time.
Notorious with Woj, though, is he doesn't have Chicago, so number 4 comes around, and people were waiting a little bit longer for that one. He doesn't have Chicago in his pocket the way he does the other teams.
Yeah.
Somebody had a good message. They said that when Klay Thompson was coming up, the year that Klay Thompson was drafted, everyone said Thompson's the best pure shooter in this draft. So there was a consensus for Klay Thompson, and there appears to be a consensus for Naismith. So
there is.
I mean, hey. Anytime those two guys are in the same sentence, I'll take that, unless it's lower leg injury. which it actually is in this case. But
yeah, we still don't know exactly what that is. We're through pick 21.
Wow.
So, guys, what do you say? Can we roll through, or do you want to take a break?
We should just keep it rolling, man.
All right, we'll keep it going.
At this point,
guys, if you have questions, let us know. So right now, let's see what's the best available. What do we got left?
my AirPods are at 10%.
We still got RJ Hampton on the board at pick 22.
So Bobby's guys.
People keep saying RJ Hunter, but it's not RJ Hunter.
Let me think of who else is out there. Tyrell Terry? No, that's a tough one for me.
I'm getting a charger. I'm going to let you guys at it for a little bit. I'm gonna pop for a second. Just talk. Go.
Okay. Just the kids.
Yeah.
Oh, we can't control. We can't control. You guys can see the comments, right? Because I can't from where I'm at right now. But
we got Tyrell Terry on the board. Number of wings, Josh Green, people like that if they want to go in that direction. Who else are we talking about here?
What do you think of Maxey? The Sixers went with Maxey at 21.
All right, yeah, let's with that. So Daryl Morey makes his first pick as 76ers GM. A combo guard, something they need, a backcourt guy who can create a little bit in the pick and roll. He is not a great pick and roll creator. He's more of an off the bounce scorer. I'd compare him a little bit to Eric Bledsoe, who also went to Kentucky. Can defend well. But, overall, just a late round, first round combo guard. He's not a great shooter. He's not a great point guard. He's somewhere in between with athleticism, with some size, and can score a little bit for them. I actually think he compares pretty favorably to what they already have there in Josh Richardson. So not a home run by any means for Philadelphia. Just a rock solid pick there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. It looks like Daryl Morey is trying to undo all of
yeah, mix up those positions a little bit. Get some guards in there.
Yeah, he's trying to undo everything that Elton Brand did. And, man.
Well, Elton Brand is still there to see it, by the way.
Yeah, but
he's watching all this unfold.
He's not calling the same shots like he used to.
Oh, no.
Daryl Morey gives the new sheriff in town. And how awkward is that conversation when he comes in and says, hey, by the way, the Al Horford thing, you thought that? Yeah, I got it done. You know what? Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if that was part of the conversation when they hired the dude. Listen, you guys want to get? I'm the only guy who will get Al Horford from underneath that contract. You put me in the spot, and I'll make sure he's gone before the start of the season.
I said nobody's more cucked than Elton Brand in the history of being cucked. I mean, he's just sitting there watching Daryl Morey do whatever he wants with his team, and he's just there watching the whole thing happen too.
He's just happy to still be employed.
Yeah, exactly.
We're talking 76ers, John.
I know. I was listening.
Oh, all right.
We were talking Sixers, and hey, one more thing on Precious. KOC is a huge fan of that pick. He said it was his favorite pick of the draft. So
Precious.
Oh yeah, he went nuts about that. Right?
I was in on Precious.
Yeah, I saw that tweet. He goes, "That is the hardest working guy." Miami Heat. Yeah, he's gonna fit in with the club, man. That guy. Jeez, look, the Miami Heat
favorite fit.
Obviously, tonight it's not the best night to talk about it, but by the time we get to the start of the season, when you compare the Celtics team, whatever it looks like compared to the others, man, it's going to be tough for this team. Whether we're talking, I'm not even thinking about Brooklyn. I'm just thinking of whether we're talking about Miami. Just to start with
thinking about Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bobby,
entertainment value. That's why.
I know, and then the Brooklyn Super Team.
So I do. If we're staying on Philly for one more minute, it's pretty amazing what they put together in the first day.
Bobby moving? Or is he frozen on your screens?
He's frozen on my screen.
He's frozen. I can hear him though.
Dead frozen. Bobby, leave and come back. Your screen's.
He gets some Wi-Fi issues.
He wasn't frozen before. He was just blurry. So.
Yeah, he was blurry.
Okay.
Well, there goes our Sixers intel.
Our Sixers Raptors insider.
Yeah. Who's on the clock right now?
I'm seeing if anything's tipped right now. It's on TV. It's 22, but I think we're past that. Bobby's running out of charge here, so we'll just kind of
saw his message.
KOC said Naismith was a fine pick, but better players were available. Ooh, he's not as high on the pick as
who said that?
Kevin O'Connor. Yeah. So
I know O'Connor had him like 22 on his big board.
Yeah. Well, I guess Danny Ainge doesn't look at his big board.
Yeah.
Or doesn't care for it, which is fine.
Right.
But
I mean, but that's the thing though. They wanted that knockdown shooter so badly, and hopefully it was the right choice.
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
I don't think it's exactly what Bobby was saying, and I was saying the same thing. Obviously, how you guys know how I felt about the
Put it this way,
Villanova
Josue. Put it this way: if the Celtics passed up on Naismith, right, and they drafted whoever, and all of a sudden the team drafts Naismith a couple picks later, that would be the end of it. You know, you passed up on another shooter, and this guy's scoring 25 in the playoffs. Just like last year. What is it with this team, or what is it with Danny Ainge?
Especially at that spot too, at 14, and everyone would be like, "Oh, it's Tyler Hero all over again."
Right. Exactly. So, I'm okay with it. I mean, shoot. We'll see. I mean, they have missed on other shooters. We talked about R.J. Hunter a few years ago. I mean, that was kind of a massive miss there. So, I mean, there are.
I mean, Carson.
RJ.
He had
the mechanics, but he just didn't have everything else. That was the problem. That
Denver
was a beautiful shot.
Zeki Naji. Oh, Shams beat Woj by like this much.
Oh, we're in the late first round now. That's when it gets, people. It's up for grabs.
Back. Shams is making a comeback here.
I think Woj is even bored with this draft. Woj is like, man.
He's like, I'm dropping no bombs tonight.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we got 4 picks till the draft. Everybody's guy that they wanted is still there in RJ. So we'll see whether or not that happens. To recap what we've got so far, no movement on Gordon Hayward. Atlanta made a curious pick at 6, taking another big Okongwu to go with Capella and Collins. And that got some people. It got me going, about something happening there. I got John Collins on the brain early today, and now I just can't get rid of it.
You really want that.
You were texting him all day.
Yeah, I've been there all day.
You refused to say the word. What's his name? The guy we're talking about who they want to trade.
Precious
from Houston. No, man, from Atlanta. Capella. You refuse to say the name Capella.
Oh no. So that happened.
Completely blanked out there.
There was a thought about the Celtics moving up. That did not happen. Celtics ended up picking at 14. They took a shooter who some people like, some people don't. We're trying to talk ourselves into it a little bit.
We have no choice.
Out of Vanderbilt. And they have 2 more picks here, 26 and 30 still in this draft.
I'll tell you what. It feels like it's starting to drag. These last few picks have been crawling. I don't know if that's just me or what, but
Cedric Maxwell's calling me. Should I pick this up?
Yeah,
absolutely. Pick it up. Tell him that he's on live.
Yo, what up, Max? You're on live right now.
I'm on live right now.
Yeah, you're on. You're doing a little draft show on CLNS, man. What do you think of the pick? Let us know.
Oh, I love the pick. I'm just more looking at what Anna Horford said to Philly.
Oh, what'd you think of that, Max? Again, we're on live, Max.
We are actually on live.
Yeah, like we're really live.
I love the pick. I think it was, you bring in another shooter, somebody could knock down some shots, extend the floor a little bit, look like he defends. You don't know that much about him because of his injuries. But then he went out, and I think that they got the best shooter available. So he was the best shooter in the draft. So, I like this, this pick coming into the NBA, helping out the team.
Yeah, we were just saying that knockdown shooter, man. When's the last time we saw someone like that for the Celtics? That wasn't coached by Doc Rivers.
It's really good to think about guys who are
ask him about Collins.
Don't see him
ask him
come
about
in
Collins.
In the NBA, you think about the Tyler Heroes and guys like that who came in and knocked down shots.
Say, what do you know about Collins?
Somebody to counter with that from that same position.
Are you a little disappointed that Suns didn't make a move? I know you approved. You're one of the few people that approved a potential Marcus Smart trade to Golden State for that number 2 pick.
Well, I think this kid was really special, Wiseman, and he looks the part of being that way. And now with I think the most serious things about Klay Thompson, if he tore his Achilles, that's devastating. You might change the dinner, but don't count everything out yet, because I think there's so many things about to happen for the Celtics. Because it just looks like, to me, it feels like Gordon Hayward will not be here. His life is not long for the Celtics, and I think that they're probably going to end up getting one of those young players. I think it could be. I think, and this is just me talking, but I think the kid John that plays center down there in college, I think that he could be a guy that the Celtics could look at, somebody who's going to counter a guy like they have now about that.
Yeah, they were just asking me to ask you about Collins. That's crazy. Did you guys talk to Max before this?
Max knows something about Collins. What is it?
Max came on with us, and we want that. He came on. He talked to Nick earlier today on the Garden Report. Mentioned something about Collins, floated it out there. We want to know if Max is hearing it or just thinks it'd be a good idea.
I'm hearing things, and I didn't hear from Danny. I'm just some of my little sources think that this could be the way that if Atlanta's thinking about moving, and you'd have to think Joe Sway is a conspiracy guy, and if Joe Sway thinks this way and says, well, why would the Celtics decide to give a player who has a player option and for them today, and they didn't make him decide one way or the other? So if they didn't make him decide, they're giving him an opportunity, I think, to go out and make a deal with another team, which is going to help them. I mean, you think about it. If he wanted to go, if you were looking and you made an opportunity for Gordon Hayward, and Gordon Hayward opted out of his contract, Atlanta has $44 million under the cap. So realistically, he could just go there. You're jacked with him leaving, but I think he wants to give the team that gave him all that money an opportunity to make sign and trade.
That's a great point.
Something maybe use more of his money.
That's a great point. He didn't do that in Utah, though.
Well, in Utah, I just think it was just he looked at the grass on the other side and said it was greener. I think it was. It was just unfortunate that in his time here, we did not see a healthy Gordon Hayward for his, for his run here. I think we only saw maybe 50% of the time that he was here available in these years that Gordon Hayward has been able to play, and I think that's what made him inconsistent.
One of the Celtics draft and stash options here just went Bolmaro.
Yeah. And who is still alive? But R.J. Hampton with 3 picks.
He might slide into the second round.
R.J. Hampton's still there.
We'll see.
Now. He's the Brady.
Max, let me call you back after this. Let's make the next pick.
Send Max a link. Send him a link.
Yeah,
Max,
get Max
get on here.
You're just sitting around.
We're just hanging.
Yeah. Thank God I told them that we're live.
Yeah, that could have gone a lot of ways.
No, but you did.
I go, Max, how's it going? And again, we are live.
These 10 to 11 p.m. Max conversations don't usually stay PG.
Yeah.
I was gonna say when he called me at this time, it's like, but then again, it's the draft, so I figured it was something.
Right. I
thought it was basketball related, but not so much.
No, it was professional, so it's good. Everybody, that was a nice treat. Hey. Cedric Maxwell podcast on CLNS Media Network. Cedric was on our network earlier today with Nick Gelso. He mentioned Collins' name, and again, when guys like Max mention things. Okay, Max isn't a reporter. He's not going out seeking this information. Sometimes people hear stuff, and they hear stuff from people who just are volunteering information. And he threw out the name John Collins, which, again, seems like a stretch that they would trade someone like that Atlanta would trade him for a Hayward or in a package that could include that. But again, that's where my wheels started going when they picked up that extra big there that seemed a little superfluous with that number 6 pick. If something might be in the works, who knows? Yeah, and it doesn't mean with the Celtics. They could be looking to move Capella or move somebody at some point or another. So we'll see. We are on pick 24. That's Milwaukee again. RJ Hampton Jaden McDaniels, Tyler Bay, Trey Jones among the top names available. I know we've been talking about RJ. Bobby, you like any of these other guys?
Tyrell Terry was the other guy I like.
Oh boy. Boy. New Orleans, Bobby. Sorry, bud. New Orleans is apparently picking RJ Hampton according to Shams at 24.
Not stunning.
Sorry,
they need a lead guard ball handler after the Drew Holiday situation. So now all eyes on Tyrell Terry. Do you double dip with that shooter? One guy's shooting 52% in college, the other guy's shooting 45% in college from three. That's a real possibility here.
I'm going to quick update here. Chris Haynes a few seconds ago on Klay Thompson, significant Achilles injury. MRI scheduled for tomorrow. It sounds like, by all accounts, people are tiptoeing around this. It sounds like he ruptured his Achilles on his right foot, on his after ACL surgery on his left. And look, this sucks, man, because ACL you come back from, and now, I mean, obviously the medicine is so good, people bounce back, and they're almost 100% within a year. That Achilles is a freaking killer for a basketball player, man. That just takes that cuts years off your career, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
so who knows what could have been with the Warriors?
That changes everything. That team was a contender, you know?
Yeah, they were a contender. But that Durant thing strikes first, and that's the first chip away at a dynasty. And people thought that they would be the team for 10 years. You thought that they might bounce back. Now all of a sudden, does this just spiral and spiral and spiral, and Steph Curry becomes available at some point? If Klay Thompson's career could be in jeopardy with an injury like this, you definitely think that could be a possibility. Who knows what could happen with that team going forward. So I'm not surprised they took James Wiseman and just did what they were going to do anyway tonight. It didn't act too rash, but you keep an eye on that team now because their fortune just changed drastically. James Wiseman, Draymond Green, Steph Curry, Andrew Wiggins. That's a bottom half playoff team in the West at best. So they have some serious decisions to make there.
Yeah.
And what makes it tough is that they probably still believe that Klay Thompson can make a recovery and a return. And I'm sure that they probably think that they're still talented enough to compete when healthy. So I'm sure that they're not like jumping at the blow up rebuild mode with that line.
One of my favorite draft things in the world, the NBA, it's so stupid, but when you know another team already owns a draft pick and they still make you put on the other team's hat, you know? So RJ Hampton's sitting there on a couch, and they throw a freaking Bucks hat on him, and he's just like looking around. He's like, I'm not a Buck, right?
He's not a Pelican either. He is going to the Denver Nuggets now.
And he went to the Nuggets. Yep.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Hampton's going to the Nuggets.
Speaking of the Nuggets.
The Celtics really wanted him.
I thought that was the team that
could have got him.
I thought that was the team that Celtics could have contacted about Gordon, but clearly they didn't have much interest because I think that would have been.
I said that earlier. Yeah, I said that earlier.
They have to move some of these guys here. They have to consolidate here, whether it's between Gary Harris, Will Barton. I thought the Celtics could have easily, got in the middle of that, pull those guys off their hands and send them Hayward.
I was thinking of New Orleans too because they have a guy Derek Favors, a guy JJ Redick who are free agents that could move on there.
Before Drew got moved, that's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
Yeah, so you potentially swap your free agents there, consolidate things a little bit in New Orleans, give them a big time guy on the wing. Like, I still look at Hayward and say he has value. So Max is talking about this stuff, and if Hayward flexes his leverage here and says, "I want to get the Celtics something in return," again, I don't know why he would do that for Boston, where he didn't do that for Utah. Remember, there was a lot of talk in the Jazz corners when he left Utah of the Celtics owe us Jay Crowder now, and the Celtics were just like, no, we're just signing him. So Atlanta could do the same thing here if Hayward's down for it. But if he suddenly has a change of heart and is like, I owe Boston something, I guess. But again, Boston's going to have to give up a little something more than just Hayward for John Collins. That's not just a giveaway. Yeah, a lot more. Is that a guy you trade Marcus Smart for? Let's discuss that one.
I mean,
I'm crazy about it.
John would say yes.
You know where I am on Smart. I think I
think about it.
My idea on Smart is this: he has terrific value. He's a definite heart and soul guy. all of the intangibles and all that, and everybody knows it. But if any team out there truly thinks that like he's worth a lot or something else of value to you, you look into it, but that would be tough.
I just think someone like Collins, I don't know. The Collins is solid. Don't get me wrong. I just think is Marcus Smart more valuable here than most places? Absolutely. But you're taking a huge part of the team's identity when you remove him. And I think he's sort of emerged into the unofficial captain of this team. And I think that rings true. That whole what happened in the playoffs and how he was and guys who support him and Jaylen Brown speaking out after the fact and whatever was said.
Here we go. We have made it to the 26th pick. Emmanuel quickly goes 25. So we're talking.
We're on the clock here.
We're on the Twitter clock.
Yeah, we're talking Tyrell Terry here, Josh Green, wings galore at the spot for Boston. Not a lot of big men left. I think that's something that's going to be kicked back here. I think you're going to see another wing or Theo Maledon, the guy I mentioned earlier, is a draft and stash guy. He could be there at 30. So you might want to work on him. But quite a few guys that we dreamed of being there at 26 have gone off the board since. So it's thin here. Do you double dip on the shooter, Tyrell Terry, guys, and have 2 45% 3-point?
What's the other options? What are the options here, Bobby?
It's getting thin at this point.
You need to draft somebody who you can trade after the fact.
We're talking 3 and D.
Possibility.
We're talking 3 and D guys: Jaden McDaniels, Isaiah Joe, all kind of 6'8" guys.
Are any of them better than Semi Ojeleye in a couple of years?
Yes.
I would say so. Desmond Baines
is one of those guys, anyways, because you have to answer that void. That's next, right?
Yeah, Desmond Bain in particular is a guy who shoots 44% from 3 guards at that position. He could be the guy here, if I was guessing. He was ranked 19th on Kevin O'Connor's board, and we're here at 26, so I think it makes a ton of sense. Fills those 2 positions on the wings. You got a number of guys here, John, who I think can be better than Semi Ojeleye, who was a second-round pick and filled that role. So they have a lot of options here in terms of wing defenders, wing guys who can shoot threes. I think they're splitting hairs here between quite a few guys. Jaden McDaniels, Tyrell Terry, who's not as good of a defender as those other guys, but is probably the second best shooter in this draft. If I had to rank my pure shooters here. So do you sacrifice a little bit of defense to get an even better shooter here? Or do you go with one of these 3 and D wing guys? I think you're going to see a wing guy here and then, do that draft and stash option at 30. But here we are, John. They're using all 3 picks, it looks like.
I don't know.
I mean, let's see what They literally did everything we said. Whatever you do, you can't take all 3 picks. They just can't. It just can't happen. And here we are. We're taking all 3 picks.
It seems like there's a lot of love on the chat for
Terry
and McDaniels here. So we will see. We're waiting it out. Again, Celtics entered the night with 3 picks. We didn't think it was wise for them to take him. Neither did really anybody. Danny Ainge, by all accounts, desperately did not want to draft 3 players tonight. Move up, out, forward, whatever. Someone asking if we're doing a free agency show on Saturday. I would love to. And it's possible we will be doing stuff over the weekend as well, Julian. So yes. But
Celtics become more interesting free agent players if Hayward walks too, and offering $10 million to a guy, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. So we are waiting here again.
Nico Mannion. I see that name in the comments too. That's an interesting one. He's a burst scorer at the guard position, not a pure point guard, but that guy scored a ton for Arizona at the guard spot. I see him as a second rounder, but he's at play here too. So let's see what they do here. Xavier Tillman, Michigan State.
Taking a lot of time. So anytime you go deep, you know that they're desperately trying to move.
I found what's interesting in this first round: 7 centers, and many of them went high. You had 3 in the first 10, I believe. So that center position was popular tonight. Malachi Flynn, someone mentions him. He's a good lead point guard, facilitator off the bench, pick and roll distributor. 6'1", smaller. skinnier, but he's a creator. San Diego State, he's a good guy here. Wouldn't hate seeing that at all. Do you want to see more wing or point guard behind Kemba here, John?
It's again at this point in the draft. We have to be realistic. What you're getting a guy that is most likely a DNP CD most nights.
Yeah.
So
well,
again,
except at that point guard
I don't
position.
want to make these picks at all, Bobby. I really don't.
Oh, and here we go. Peyton Pritchard is going to the Celtics at number 26. So let me tell you about Peyton Pritchard. This is one of those guys from Oregon who was ball in his hands all the time, point guard, shooter off the dribble, was doing everything for Oregon, a creator. He was the center of the offense there at Oregon for quite a few years and led some very good teams there. That kind of goes back to this thing you see with Danny Ainge of enjoying guys who succeed at the highest level at the college game. I'm trying to pull up his page here, but we're talking about a point guard who can shoot off the dribble, who can create a bit here, and that's what they're going with at 26.
All right. Well, we mentioned point guard as one of the possibilities, and here you have it. Again, you're looking at likelihood that Wanamaker's not around next year, and really you're looking at Tremont Waters here, as the deep bench point guard type player. Bobby, from what you know of Pritchard, compare him to, he's a different type of player as Tremont, but if those guys are fighting out for that spot there, is this Pritchard's?
Yeah, I'd say so
because he's a first rounder, but
he's a scorer, which is the key. A lot of these guys on the Celtics bench were struggling to put up 10 points last game. We would get thrilled when Brad Wanamaker would put up that amount. So I would certainly say so. He is that guy who comes in and can put the ball in every spot on the floor. It's got to be splitting hairs there between him and Romeo Langford when they come back, when he comes back ultimately, to see which one of those guys can score and defend at a higher rate, because we know Stevens is going to go with the defender there. But again, the theme of the night, add offense, add bench scoring. That's what Ainge is trying to do at a high level here.
Well, that's what we got. So we've taken 2 picks now, and
the Wanamaker's definitely gone.
Yeah.
You need roster spots for these guys, and he's a free agent. So that might be part of the thinking here as well.
Peyton Pritchard, number 26. Nobody had him there. This is a guy who was in second rounds in a lot of mocks, right, Bobby?
Yeah, I had him in my second round as well. He was one of the guys on the edge that I thought about, so he's definitely borderline. I see Sam Vecini here has him 37, but this is a guy who is a bigger version of Carson Edwards, I would say. He's older. He's another guy who has experience, 4 years in college. Shot 42% from 3 last year, so he's a shooter off the dribble. Gets into the lane. I just remember this guy, watching him at Oregon, being a guy who was just a relentless scorer, who was always looking for his shot. The ball was always in his hands. And, this is a guy I recognize, John. Like, this isn't a guy I'm like, oh, let me dig deep and this guy.
Right.
He's on national TV a lot. He was on great teams during his year. He was the center of everything they were doing there. So he's another guy who's developed, who is what he is at this point, and comes in and plays and is ready to go. So to answer your question, I think he will be the guy off the bench who's playing.
All right, so we got one more pick here, and again, you wonder whether this is a bump it into the second round sort of situation here.
Maybe they reached a little bit on this guy Pritchard with the idea that they're hoping to trade out of that 30th pick, right? Maybe that's part of it.
I still think you're stashing that at this point, with a guy like Theo Maledon who's still there. But man, nothing crazy here.
The comments are not kind to Peyton Pritchard. I will say that. Nobody's jumping for joy at Pritchard here.
He is what he is. We got another pick here that is what it is. Yeah, he played 4 years.
Oh boy. I remember Juwan Johnson was a senior. I don't know if they did. Oh, and
we've done this before, You
want to do it? Jimmy Butler.
And... You know where it did work for him? The Tony Allen, Delonte West year, where you grab guys who are 3 and 4 year players.
Well, hey, I mean, if you get that, great. But backup point guard. I mean, it is. I guess it technically is a position of need, right? I mean,
but you're not even counting on hitting. You're not even counting on hitting at this point. Like I said, is these guys this late draft? These are washouts. I mean, this is why nobody wants these picks.
This was Vicini on Pritchard. He called him one of his favorite players in college hoops last year. He voted him third on his Player of the Year ballot for all of college basketball, and said his fearlessness and overall toughness really makes me want to buy in. I like him as a potential backup point guard that can obviously get hot enough to close games for teams in his prime. But to get beyond that level, he's going to have to improve his passing and his defensive ability. Given the competitive attitude, I'd expect he's going to play in the NBA for a long time.
Yeah. KOC had him as his 33rd overall prospect. Kevin O'Connor understands how to control the game with his dribble and his voice. Remember in the playoffs, remember in the bubble, they were talking about the voice when Miami was so much more vocal than they were. Interesting. Yeah. But anyway, smart decision maker, makes accurate passes, doesn't force the issue. If he drives, he won't force a shot. Kick it out, relocate, knockdown shooter. Movement off the dribble suggests he can be a dynamic offensive weapon. Solid ball handler. Won't necessarily break down defenders, but has good ball control, limits turnovers, high effort on ball and off ball defender who could become a pesky defender if he maximizes his limited athleticism.
So, like, you guys are gonna say this guy goes after
shots, doesn't draw a lot of fouls, undersized, limited defender. So that's it.
I mean, you basically summed up late first round picks. I mean, right?
That's what you get in the late first round.
Hey,
you're either getting an athletic project or you're getting a guy who can ball but has limited athleticism. That's what you're picking from.
Hey.
My favorite is when you get those comparisons. This guy, he's somewhere between kind of like a Paul George or like a Von Wafer. It's like, wait, what?
Oh, yeah.
It's like there's two completely different skill levels. Like, what?
Von Wafer.
Hooray! We got a pesky defender.
You're really getting into this spot. You talk about it, John, where everybody has their guy at this point. Like, it doesn't matter if they're ranked 50th or they're ranked 40th on all kinds of different boards. Like, teams just find their favorites at this spot. Yes. And who Danny has done this.
25 through 45 is the same friggin' guy. It's right.
This is such a Danny Ainge pick. You know who Danny Ainge sees in Peyton Pritchard? Danny Ainge. He's done this so many times.
This guy is Yuri Welsh.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Even wore his number.
He wore his number. He was so proud about that. He's like, "Here you go." I saw Yuri Welsh in the day after we got him from Cleveland. I saw him in the Atrium Mall in Chestnut Hill, just walking around, and I recognized him, and nobody else knew who he was yet. And I barked his name out at him, and he was like he felt like he was assaulted. I was with my wife and girlfriend at the time. I was like, "Yuri, welcome to Boston." He was like, "Gee."
I forget the exact way, but Yuri Welsh did somehow lead to Rajon Rondo in a very long, twisted bunch of trades way. So we do have that for Yuri Welsh to thank.
So that's what you get. All right, we'll take it.
I love your guys' old Celtic stories. We think the draft's bad now. You guys go back to days where it was just absurd.
Nothing will top Jerome Moiso.
Moiso was bad.
This guy went 6. This guy went. Can you imagine if the Celtics drafted a modern day Moiso instead of Marcus Smart or instead of Jaylen Brown? Jeez.
I hope
Ron Mercer at 3rd.
I hope I don't live
talk about that year.
I hope I don't live the day to say you guys should have.
First was 6. Billups was 3rd.
I hope I don't live to say, "Ooh, that Romeo Langford pick was," and then Romeo Langford.
Well, it began with it's worse than that. Michael Smith was a really bad one. I remember growing up, BYU, number 11 overall, and then the last thing Red Auerbach ever did was forcing the issue on Forte.
Oh, is that right?
Kedrick Brown
Red?
was an awful one too.
Wait.
Kedrick Brown was awful, but Red was in love with Joe Forte out of North Carolina, and everyone's like, "All right, let him have him." And they drafted him, and he didn't play a freaking second.
That dude used to just chill, and this is before.
And they were like, "You're gonna go hang out up there."
Yeah, he had his jeans were baggier than mine. And he would just be chilling. No, I'm talking about Joe Forte. I think that dude suited up maybe 3 times that year, and that was the year the Celtics went to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, and one of my least favorite ones ever for no reason at all, just because the second he walked in, I was like, "This guy's freaking clueless." Was J.R. Giddens?
J.R. Giddens.
I was like,
"Oh my god." That was
this guy. You're on a championship team. Wake up! Like, come on.
He was 2009, right after the championship, right?
Yeah.
The team. J.R. Giddens.
And so obviously you're picking 32 at that point because you won the championship, so you're not expecting anything. And when that guy walked in, I was like, this guy doesn't have a freaking clue how to play basketball.
To me, that dude was like taking pictures and asking for autographs after the games, bro.
All right, we're coming up.
He was so happy to just be there.
Be on the court. He's like, wow.
And then James Young. Someone mentions James Young. That's an all-timer. This is Jimmy. Jimmy can share.
That's too soon. It's too soon.
Jimmy can share my pain here. Jimmy shares my pain. We worked at CSN, now NBC Sports Boston, but I worked at CSN for 10 years, and I had to combat these freaking green teamers who could not give up on a player. So for 2.5 years, I keep hearing how James Young's gonna be something, and I'm just like, guys, enough already.
It's not happening.
You have to stop this madness.
There was one
James Young cannot play basketball.
There was one James Young game against Charlotte too where they were down like 20 and he comes in and hits about 4 shots in the row. And I can remember Tommy screaming and yelling, Gorman saying, "They found the guy. Here he is. This is the scorer." The Garden's going crazy. And that was the end of James Young after one good game.
Well, he beat out RJ. That was like the big showdown that year.
What's that, Josue?
He beat out RJ for the last spot. Remember, that was the big showdown. Who's going to make the team, right? RJ or James Young?
RJ fizzled out faster than anyone, and he was a mid-first rounder.
He was late, and everyone was like, if they took RJ where they took that, you'd actually feel good about it, you know? And it was like, we thought we got a steal, Yeah,
but remember the following year when they drafted Rozier? Oh, you could have got this guy at 28 or whatever, and they got him at 14.
Yeah.
So here we are again. We're coming up on 30, and a lot of the guys we talked about at 26 are still there.
Oh, this is the worst one of all. Juwan Johnson is 1,000 daggers to the heart because the story there was a dead split in the draft room between him and Jimmy Butler. And everybody was a coin. It was like arguments in the war room between the two, and half the faction wanted that, and Danny was in love with the idea of the stretch 4 and Juwan and
another senior.
And they went with Juwan over Jimmy Butler, and to that day, it haunts them every single day of their lives.
Yeah, that was the year they went Johnson and E'Twaun Moore, right?
Yeah, that was the year where the Celtics squeezed out one more run. They went to the Eastern Conference Finals and fell. They had a 3-2 lead against the Heat, and they blew it.
Oh, that was painful being there, Game 6 in the Garden.
Oh, you were there.
So what are they gonna do here? Like, are we adding 3 players to the roster? Sending something? There's gotta be something more here.
Again, that's what we don't know. But right now, it is eerily quiet on Celtics Twitter about potential movement. Nothing curious has happened yet that would lead you to believe that something's in the works, right? Like there isn't something like this, except for Atlanta drafting the third big that doesn't fully make sense to me. But nobody said anything about that. This is probably just something in my own head. I don't see anything right now that seems to be that there's any movement with any of these players.
I just want, because I know you can do it, but you're just going to keep picking and picking and picking. And we're talking again, if Hayward leaves, 9 or 10 players on this roster being first, second, or third year players, and only about 4 veterans on this team. I don't know how you go forward with that, even if you hit on these guys. And, one of them might be a hit in Naismith. Pritchard's looking like a decent player. Now you're coming up on 30 with, decent talent there. Like, you're not looking at substantial upgrades off the bench here. Like, these are, marginal upgrades, and you still have questions about the core. Like, there's gotta be something. There may not be, but there's gotta be something
Bobby.
going on here.
This is what happens.
But look, it's not the end of the world. I think the Celtics most likely.
Maine.
I feel like Bobby just found out Santa Claus doesn't exist. He's
Well, let's go back to the day that we look ahead.
Oh, you're telling him like war stories.
I just can't believe it. Like, this is what happens.
Let's go back to the. Let's go back to
more
the
normal than not.
Yeah,
exactly. They usually really mess this up, Bobby. This is better.
Let's go back to the day where they picked up all these picks from the Kings and whoever else here. Grizzlies way back with that Jeff Green trade. I can't believe that's just cashing out now, by the way. Did we look ahead and say, there's 10 picks in the future. They're going to use all 10 of them, or however many it is. It's hard to count after all these years. And they did cash in on the last Brooklyn pick, but they have used quite a few more of these than I think we expected.
Oh, yeah. God.
I guess that's.
We've reached the one of Bain or Tillman is going to be there when they pick. So hooray, we did it. Portion of Celtics Twitter, and I'm not here for this anymore.
Are you?
I'm ready to go.
This feels like Dave.
I'm here in body only. I checked out 20 minutes ago.
I'm one of those. No, John. If this was 2019, I would have been that guy saying Grant Williams is on the board. But we stood there with those 4 rookies last year, and we're just like, we're doing this, huh? Like, or it was 5 rookies when you include Taco and, throwing Javonte Green, it was 6. And now all of a sudden you're adding 4 more. There's going to be 10. You're getting rid of some of these guys, but upwards of 10.
All those kids. Christmas is going to be awesome with all these kids, Oh, geez. Just what are we doing?
This roster is so young and inexperienced. It's unbelievable.
You almost have to just hope
that's my issue.
Guys like Romeo is going to see these new guys come in and be like, wait a minute, you're not taking my spot, bro. Like, I got this.
So let's look at like Hayward.
That's what we said. That's what we said in the playoffs. There's not enough depth. There's not enough veterans to come in.
All right, that 30th pick's coming in, but I got something to say after it.
Oh, do we have it?
It's coming in any minute now. I think they're there now because Malachi Flynn just went to Toronto at 29, so the Celtics are on the clock. I guess I'll just squeeze it in quick here. We were talking about Hayward's potential sign and trade being splitting one player into multiple different medium-sized contracts. Now you're talking about signing 3 rookies where you really only had 3 roster spots to open. Like, something's got to give here. And forget about a Hayward leaving and this being the situation. I'm out on the team. If that's the way this is going, you get a trade.
Our Celtics beat guy. He's out.
If that's the way this goes.
Danny, you killed him.
Now, again, I'm not going to kill them for something they haven't done.
Bobby, they're joking about the whole Toronto thing, right? They're not really going to send it to Toronto, right? I think it was Nick that said that. Nick was like, "Hey, maybe we work something out." I'm like, "Wait, don't tell Bobby that. He's gonna actually think you're serious."
Santa just got ruined again.
Yeah.
You do bring up a legitimate concern.
He's not even getting started in this business, and you guys are just cutting his legs out here.
Oh man, let's see what's coming at 30. Boston is moving the 30th pick, according to Woj.
Trade
for 2 second rounders.
Probably.
That's what we said they were gonna do.
Oh, let's get even more players. Let's make it 5. Let's start putting them on Maine. Unreal.
It's gonna be a future pick.
I can't believe they really did this.
I can. I told you they would do this.
You were right.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. Yep. So now you got to address the center somehow in free agency or via trade. Again, I'm waiting for the next thing. I was waiting for it last year and it never came, but I'm still waiting for the next thing that's going to follow this. There are so many players on this team.
They're gonna get literally nothing for this 30th pick. They have to trade it.
That's what I'm saying. You trade for a future. It's going to be one of those like it's a second, but it can convey to a first if such and such sort of things. You know, they had like Minnesota,
right? You're not talking about this draft.
No, like a future where it'll be like it'll be a second unless the team finishes in the bottom 15 or something. Then it turns into a first or something like that. You know?
Right. No,
like one of those. They've done that. I think it was Minnesota. They did that with, right?
Yeah. But it goes back to what I said. I think that's why they may have reached on Pritchard, because they kind of knew that they weren't going to get another opportunity to pick him at 30 or whatever.
And so it all circles back. 30 is going to the Memphis Grizzlies.
He doesn't even say for what.
For nothing. The return doesn't matter.
They're just trading it.
Just taking.
Well, let's wait on details, and then we'll kind of put a bow here on all of it. But that's what happened. We're looking at a trade with the 30th pick.
Maybe for Morant.
Morant, I think, probably. That's likely. But they trade the 30th pick. After making their selections at 14 and 26. 14, they took a shooter, Aaron Naismith, out of Vanderbilt. Mixed reaction. Some people really like it. He's a specialist. He's a scorer, 23 points per game, 52% from three. Was hurt last year, but he should be fine. Then at 26, bit of a reach with Peyton Pritchard, point guard out of Oregon. A lot of people had him kind of as a fringy, more of a second-round pick. Fills a need, I guess. Offensive player, limited athleticism, can score, pesky defender. That's what we got. It's pretty uninspired right now. Like I don't know if the tone of my voice is kind of giving it away. But this seems to be the mood.
So the context of this is going to be important for me. If they find a way to keep Hayward around, if they find a reasonable way to move him, like our John Collins scenario, whatever that is, like
the salary, right?
I think reasonable is out the window now. I mean, let's face it. If he gets moved, the Celtics are going to get screwed.
So what are we talking about here next year? We're talking about Brown, Tatum, Smart.
This right here could be a salary dump, though, right?
Himmelsbach says future pick. That's all I said.
Future pick, but you could be tying a salary to this as well.
Right? Vincent Poirier, maybe.
I know Cantor hasn't opted in yet, so I don't know if that could happen down the road, like after he whatever happens there, opt in and send. But I could see this was something people talked about too, is tying a salary to one of these things and just getting rid of the pick and the salary and just shipping it out all in one shot.
And there goes Desmond Bain to Memphis. Let's hope that's not who's your guy in Memphis already that to swipe them from the Celtics.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name off the top of my head.
Clark.
Yes,
the guy I wanted instead of Williams last year. Yeah. I threw stuff last year when that happened.
We were talking about him all year long.
That bugged me. That's just the perfect guy at that spot in the draft because it's instant energy, athleticism, just what you kind of needed there. I didn't get it.
Brandon Clark.
That's what I said that.
Yeah.
Brandon Clark.
So watch Desmond Bain become the next third guy in Rookie of the Year for Memphis. Here we are. Not inspiring. Is this your 2 steps back for 1 step forward plan?
No, it's the other way around. 1 step back, 2 steps forward. Otherwise, you're going backwards. But I don't know that I don't know. You'll never get where you want to go.
Oh, that actually could. That could be what this move ends up being.
Oh, he's just going around.
That was a Freudian slip.
No, it's fine. It's not the trading Hayward to secure something that can put you in a position to do something else down the road is the 1 step back to take a couple steps forward. Didn't happen. So they ended up doing what we kind of thought was possible, if not probable. Hard to make trades. None of this stuff really had any value. They got a decent player at 14. They got whatever at 26, and nothing really to be super inspired by. We'll see. This is This has nothing to do with what the team is going to be like next year. Most of the excitement is going to come in the next couple of days here.
Yeah.
With the Hayward and whatever that's going to trigger. So you're going to really have a clear picture. I mean, that's the whole ball game. He opts in and you run it back, or you find some sort of trade and you're doing a half rebuild on the fly. You're retooling parts of your roster, building around a core. That's what this team is. It's a run it back for a year or kind of making some changes on the fly.
And I think these moves look fine if you run it back. Like you have your shooter off the bench, you have your bench point guard in Pritchard, and you still have the best top 4 in the NBA if you can retain Hayward. So I'll be perfectly fine with this draft if they're keeping this. But what are you doing if you have half? It's not even half contention and half future anymore. It's like 1/5 of the roster is guys that move the needle, and then the rest is just your cast of young guys and hopeful future careers.
Like all along, man. Like that's the thing about this team. Like all season long, it was like this team is so top heavy.
Well, it made sense last year. It made sense last year.
They made what?
It made sense last year because you didn't know Kemba was coming. Irving, all those guys were walking out the door. So it's like, all right, we're not contending anymore. Let's get a bunch of young guys and just see what happens here. Now Kemba comes, you make the East Finals, and your needle's back toward the finals. And you do the same thing on draft night.
Well,
the problem is that core hasn't improved, and of course, neither is the second unit. So overall, I mean, we're not seeing a better team, whereas most of the top teams in the East have improved.
Yeah, that's the other issue. The East gets tougher.
I think the next week or so, like John said, it's going to tell a lot. I mean, this roster you see tonight isn't going to be the roster you see.
The roster's full, so yeah, you gotta find a way to move some stuff to do anything.
They're gonna have to move some of those end of the bench type holes, and I think they need to bring in a couple of low cost veterans to shore up the bench and shore up some of those role players, because you can't count on unfortunately you can't count on the second year guys, I don't think, at this point, and certainly you can't count on the rookies without seeing what you've got. So they definitely need to add a couple of low cost veterans to the mix.
The Celtics have to roll a dice on some of these guys, and let's face it, one of the guys that I think that the Celtics just want no part of, and they haven't shown any inches of it because they would have had him already, and that's DeMarcus Cousins, or other guys in the past, like the guy who you're not gonna have to throw the bag at, but the Celtics aren't going to consider that, right? And I'm not saying that if they don't, then that they're foolish. But doesn't Danny have to take a risk with some of these guys, like whether it's DeMarcus or another veteran who the Celtics never take a flyer on, unless it's March and they're desperate. Let's take a flyer somewhere before the season starts, as opposed to taking a flyer on all these young guys and deciding whether they belong in Maine or not. Like this is going to be the third year in a row where we have a really, really good championship Maine team. But the Celtics team just hasn't been able to put together at least 2 solid guys from that main team that can contribute right away.
What do you do with Taco Fall?
Oh, shut up! I can't do this.
Make the All-Star team in freaking Maine. Like that's the thing. Like those are the guys.
I can't do it anymore.
We moved on to the Taco Fall.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
Honestly, you take your bet.
When I can't do Taco tonight. I can't.
When it comes to bolstering this second unit, you take you try to mold someone like Romeo, and your top pick in this draft, the shooter. Let's see it. Let's put him in there. And you work from there. But Hayward, I mean, if Hayward walks, that's another hole, and it's looking like that's going to be the case.
All right. I generally like the picks they made tonight.
Sign me up for Cousins.
Of course you do.
Sign me up for Cousins.
It's just, where does all this stuff go? We got 14 players under contract, 1 free agent, 2 draft picks, potentially using a mid-level extension, so you get to 17 there. 2 two-way players make it 19, and a second-round pick here. We're talking about moving around 20 players right now. It's like, where does all this stuff go?
There's not enough locker room spots in the.
It's going to be like training camp where they have 4 guys sitting down on the ground with their bags just in the middle of the room. Again, can't kill them for what they haven't done yet. There's 2 days until free agency, and trades are opening up now, and the Hayward situation needs to be settled tomorrow. So, we'll react to that when it comes. All I can say now is I like those picks. They're decent picks at 14.
Brad's talking right now. now. Talking about Gordon. He said he's not going to talk about other people's decisions. It's his option. It's their option. It's their choice. We'll see how it all plays out. So it doesn't have any insight there on what's going on.
That doesn't sound great.
It doesn't. But, Brad, again, on the team, we'll see how the team fills out. But what we wanted to do tonight was pick guys we thought could compete for time and compete to add value to winning. We got 2 guys who are gym rats. Put the ball in the basket. We'll be excited to get here and work.
That seems accurate.
Brad Stevens. What a Brad quote. When you get – where'd it go? When you can put the ball in the basket, that certainly is a benefit. Talking about Nate.
Yep. All right, so we're going to hear from some of these guys tonight. I think we're going to wrap this up. We've been going for a bit. Thank you guys for hanging this whole time. We know what we know, and we got the most viewers we've had all night in here right now. I feel bad to leave, but we're out of gas because
that's what happened last time. Right when the draft started, it was packed in there.
No, I know. So
not this packed, actually.
No, it's great. I appreciate everybody who hung out here with us. It was fun. What, Jimmy? I can't read that.
I don't say one thing. Keith
I even try to look too.
Keith, can you guys just read it? Forget. No, Keith Smith.
There's like 7 lines of freaking copy on that thing. You think we can read that?
Well, let me read it. I think Boston may have gotten a future first-round pick from the Utah Jazz in the deal with Memphis. It's got some weird protections on it. Working to confirm. Also, Vincent Poirier.
Poirier's in it.
As well.
I just saw it.
There goes a roster spot. And he was on a French radio show complaining about his playing time and calling Stevens out. So, he was gone. Yeah.
Well, he tried
to say that it was lost in translation. We're like, nah, bro. The vibes were there. You meant what you said.
You know you're French, Josue. You know you're French.
I mean, I did grow up in a neighborhood with a lot of Haitians. You know the tone. You know when someone's upset.
We have gone off the rails. What a night. John predicted it to a T. They didn't use all 3, but it was close.
Yeah, well, I said we might kick one of them out, and that's what they did for a future. So it is what it is. But whatever, you had to do that. You had too many bigs. You couldn't bring them all back there. It just wouldn't have made any sense. So, Poirier, that makes sense. And again, you're getting nothing in that 30th pick. So
talk about another guy that we broke down to a T last year, projected all this future use for, and now he's gone.
So I'll just close it with this. So the Celtics trade their 30th pick for a bag of basketballs, and then at the 31st pick, the Mavericks select Tyrell Terry, who KOC calls the steal of the draft. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, the tweet, Baines and Terry, and then they go in order at 30 and 31, and we're dumping Poirier.
And those are the guys that everyone wanted at 26, and then they took Peyton Pritchard, who's again this pick isn't aging well, and it was only made like 15 minutes ago.
Again, we don't know. We don't know any of it.
It just sucks.
Peyton Pritchard, like some old school actor.
You're literally giving your picks away because you couldn't manage them. You
gave Vincent 2 years for what?
You just wasted a pick to get rid of a pick.
He had a good reputation, but clearly wasn't ready for the NBA. Swing and a miss.
Oh, there we go. You hit on Tice, you miss on Vincent.
I know. But what a hit on Tice.
I'm getting angry.
It was for the Red Sox. It was Ortiz and Jeremy Giambi, okay? I'm not kidding. In 2003, they take a swing at both these guys. They actually brought Jeremy Giambi in thinking that he was going to be the starting first baseman for the team.
Right.
And then they bring in Ortiz as a flyer, and Ortiz ends up being a Hall of Famer, and Giambi's,
crazy.
So you never know.
Who had the best night tonight outside the Celtics, you believe?
I haven't been paying attention.
Oh, it's outside the Celtics.
You know who I like coming together a little bit? The New York Knicks. I think they had a good night.
Great place for Hayward to go when he opts out tomorrow.
Another option. They're building a little something there.
People are asking if we're going to be back for Hayward. It's a 5 o'clock decision. If these guys are around, we'll definitely be doing something on that because it's obviously a huge moment. So we will try to come back and talk about that. It's a big deal. We got free agency over the weekend. So we'll talk about that as well. As far as everything else goes, again, thanks everybody for hanging. Sponsor Manscaped of this show. You see it up next to Jimmy there. The logo's been up there the whole time. Just letting you guys know, 20% off and free shipping with the code GARDEN20 at manscaped.com. Once again, 20% off and free shipping with the code GARDEN20 at manscaped.com. All sorts of fun packages. The lawnmower, the weed whacker, the crop duster.
That's right, fellas.
I've got it memorized now. Cologne. Underwear, a travel bag. It's awesome. Yeah, they literally.
When I first opened the boxer briefs, I was like, that's kind of funny. I didn't expect that. They legit give you that part of the
good Christmas gift, stocking stuffer.
It's time. Yeah, this is good. This is a good gift. It really is. It's a great dad gift. Okay.
Kind of a weird dad gift, but. A dad gift.
Here, Dad, shave your balls.
You know what? I never thought about this, son. Thank you.
Dad, it's time.
Talking to Mom, and
this shit might have been okay, 20, 30, growing up in the 70s. Where you can just let all the hair fly.
The scene of Wolf of Wall Street where he's talking to his dad.
Good Yankee swap gift.
Yeah, that stuff doesn't work anymore. So that's it. And again, thanks guys. It was fun. It was an awesome group. The chat was lively. People weren't super angry, but definitely
it started well. We were saying we got a little something going on here, and of course, once you get to 26, it takes an angry turn.
Little bit of right. There's a little bit of frustration, a little bit of here's the thing, and it takes a little while to digest it. You need some proper context. So again, we'll see what happens with this. But as Bobby's put a couple of times, this is a they are what they are sort of draft. You know what you got here.
22-year-olds.
Yeah, you got seasoned productive college basketball players. Celtics. Danny's gone this way in the past. Yep. It's a safe way to go with later picks when you don't think you've got star upside. Bring in players who can actually play in your rotation onto a team that already has established players. You're right. This is not the type of roster. If they are going to make the picks, it's not the type of roster you could bring in 3 projects here. You had to if you're keeping these guys, you had to get ready-made players who do certain things, and that's what they got. So is it the sexiest thing in the world? No. But might it be what this team needs or in the best interest? That's obviously something we're going to have to wait and see. So that's it. That's all we got. No Vegas Summer League for us to overreact to these guys scoring friggin' 35 points on YMCA bums, which is always a bummer because you do get to see those flashes and you're like, whoa,
Arson Edwards had quite a summer.
Yeah. But they're asking for our draft grade. Bobby, give it to them.
Oh, hold on real quick. We got a little trade here. Nothing too crazy. Mark
Celtics?
No. Oh, if it was Celtics, I would have just made John stop talking immediately. No. This is for the Sixers.
That's impossible.
Mark Stein is reporting that the Dallas Mavericks are trading Seth Curry to Philadelphia in exchange for Josh Richardson.
Oh man, things are brewing in Philly. So today they get Terrence Ferguson, Seth Curry, Tyrese Maxey. All of a sudden, you're talking about wings, guards, breaking up that center logjam there a little bit. So
shooters.
Daryl Morey's already going to work.
Seth's going to be chucking them up.
Seth Curry's going to be taking
Curry to Philly. You got a shooter. Bobby, give us a draft grade.
You got to tip your hat to that one.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, man.
So I'm going to boil it down to 14 because that's all that matters. You either want to move up higher or take the guy you wanted at 14. And what were we saying at 14? Forget Pritchard. Forget all these random guys we're talking about at 30 because, again, that stuff didn't matter, especially for the Celtics, a top-heavy team. If we're just grading this off, Aaron Naismith, I give it a B-.
Okay.
I don't hate it.
Yeah, it's good.
I was going to give it I was going to give it a B to a B plus. I was leaning B plus because I did want them to end up with a shooter. They got apparently what a lot of people are saying is the best
C
shooter.
minus. What did you want?
I can't take. I mean, if we're just talking players that they drafted, I mean, obviously, yeah, I would have liked them to make them see a trade, get out of 26 and 30, but Jimmy wants to fight Bobby low key. High key. It's actually very high key. I'll fight this kid right now. No, but
I was like, what did John laugh
at? The same box. That's why I got Jimmy up here and Bobby down there.
B plus. I mean,
that was good reverse. Yeah. Oh, see, I'm going the wrong way.
They got a shooter. I mean, we'll see. I mean, we bashed them for not drafting guys who can shoot. They drafted guys who can shoot. Hey, Bobby, the one thing he says right. I mean, I'm only grading them off the 14th pick. I'm not going to grade them off Pritchard. I'm not going to grade them on 30. We knew they had to give away a pick at some point, so they did. I mean, I would have liked some fireworks, but I like the player that they took, so we'll see what happens.
What's good about this draft is the odds that you look at Naismith and say, man, what a bust, are pretty low. Like, he's going to do what he's going to do, and it's going to help them.
And for people who are grading the Celtics a lower grade, it's solely because of the fact that they didn't trade into the top 10 or top 7.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, like the grade level started, if they didn't trade into the top 6 or 7, it was like everyone else is like C already. And then, from there, depending on where you go, what area you're going to, help out in. I mean, we talked about beforehand, knockdown shooters. That's something Celtics never had or haven't had in a long time. And I'm with you. I give him a B minus.
Yeah, Pritchard's going to be interesting if we move on to him too, because that backup point guard position is important. Wanamaker played it well last year. You have Smart possibly jumping into the starting lineup if Hayward walks. So that suddenly becomes an important spot on the roster. And if he becomes an upgrade there, you're talking about an A draft here. So,
yep. All right. So I don't know. We're not sure. We're not sure if it's an A draft.
We don't know yet.
It is what it is draft. This draft, I'm going to tell you right now, is going to be defined less for the players who they got and more for the players who they passed up on or didn't go get, because this was such a wild card draft. I guarantee there's going to be hits other places in this draft in and around where the Celtics were picking, and we're going to look around and say, couldn't you have just gotten that guy? That's the downside. That's the downside of taking guys with low ceilings, is you've punted on a chance to have found the next Giannis or Donovan Mitchell or whoever it is, because you took a safe player. And that's tough for fans to get into, because you didn't hit that home run and you're dying for it. So you will see one of these guys hit around there and be like, oh God, why did we trade it? It is what it is. That's the nature of this game. Let's wrap it up here again. I said, from our sponsor, Manscaped, again, the last shout out, Josue Pavone, Bobby Manning, Jimmy Toscano. We'll talk to you about Gordon Hayward tomorrow. We'll have more stuff coming overnight. You'll hear from Danny. We'll hear from Brad. So keep it here. Subscribe to our YouTube page. If you haven't already, you'll get alerts when we go live. Follow us on CLNS Media. Bobby Manning will be writing there. Also, Celtics blog, Josue Pavone, heavy.com for Celtics beat there, covering all your Celtics needs. We're going to sign off. Thanks again, guys. We'll probably see you in some form or another tomorrow with a major Gordon Hayward, possibly franchise-altering decision. So we'll see what happens there.
All right, guys.